I never expected to hear those words come out of my father's mouth, especially not in my own home, the one I worked my entire adult life to afford. Elizabeth is a mistake. I wish she was never born. That's what he said. Cold, final, and meant for someone else to hear, not me. He was on a video call with an old friend Stanley, someone from his days in the contracting business, when he forgot to hit end. I had come home early that day, my heart full, after delivering a winning pitch at work that might land me a director position. I wanted to share the news, to celebrate, maybe even take them out to dinner. But instead, I stood in the hallway, frozen, listening to a conversation that shattered every illusion I'd been clinging to. She walks around like she's better than us, my father went on. So what if she bought this house? She's 34 and still alone. No husband, no family. That's not success. I couldn't breathe. My stomach turned cold, but I didn't cry. Not then. My mother's voice joined his. She's cold. So career-focused she forgot how to be human. They laughed. About me. About the woman who'd paid every mortgage bill, every utility, who'd sacrificed her savings so they could live here rent-free after Dad's second bankruptcy. I stood there absorbing every word like glass cracking under pressure. But I didn't break. I made a choice. I walked back out the door without saying a word. That night, I didn't scream. I didn't plead. I sat in silence and outlined a plan. 1 week. That's all it would take. 1 week to sell the house. 1 week to disappear from their lives as completely as they'd erased my value in that moment. If you've ever heard your own family speak about you, like you didn't matter, drop a yes in the comments and let me know where you're watching from. Because trust me, this story is just beginning. 3 years earlier, when I bought the house, it was supposed to be a fresh start for all of us. My parents had lost nearly everything in my father's second bankruptcy: the house, the savings, even their pride. I had just been promoted to senior financial analyst at a firm in Seattle, and it felt like the right thing to do: bring them in, help them get back on their feet. I used every penny of my bonus and dipped into my emergency fund for the down payment on a $900,000 colonial-style home in the suburbs. I remember the day we moved in. My mom cried as she unpacked the family photo albums. My dad shook my hand like I was a stranger doing him a favor. At the time, I mistook that for gratitude. But now, looking back, I see it was something else. Resentment. Maybe even envy. At first, I set rules to create boundaries. They ignored them. I asked them to contribute to groceries they didn't. I paid for repairs cleaned up after them, and even helped my father apply for early Social Security benefits. Nothing was enough. They acted as if I owed them this life, like I was just paying off some invisible debt for being born. And then there was Ethan, my younger brother, the golden child who hadn't held a job longer than 6 months, who couldn't keep a relationship or stay sober for more than a year. My parents worshipped him. Every call he made was urgent, every mistake excused, and every financial mess handed off to me to fix. If you've ever been the one in your family expected to hold everything together while no one holds you, comment yes and subscribe for more stories like this. You are not alone, and you're not crazy for finally saying enough. Because that's what I was about to do. I stopped trying to earn their respect. I stopped trying to be their lifeline. And I began to draft my own escape. A clean break. No warning. No arguments. Just one final move that would end this cycle forever and finally give me back the life they never let me fully live. The breaking point didn't come with a scream. It came with a whisper I wasn't supposed to hear. I got home early that Wednesday afternoon. The client presentation had gone better than expected, and I was practically floating. This was it, the final confirmation before my promotion would be announced. I brought home pastries from my favorite bakery, excited to share just a sliver of my joy with the people I still believed were rooting for me. But the moment I stepped into the hallway, everything shifted. My father's voice carried from the den. I stopped just outside the door, hearing him chuckle as he said, "She acts like she's our savior. Truth is, she wouldn't survive 2 days without needing attention." My mother added softly, "She thinks money makes her important." That house. It was always meant to bring this family back together, not make her queen of it. I stood still, pastry box in hand, pulse pounding in my ears. They didn't know I was there. They didn't hear the soft gasp that escaped my throat, or see how my shoulders dropped under the weight of the truth. This wasn't a one-time lapse. This was how they really saw me. Not as a daughter, not as family, but as a resource. A walking bank account they resented for being necessary. When they hung up, I stepped into the room. Calm. Collected. "So I'm the charity case who thinks she's royalty." They froze. My father stammered. My mother turned pale. But I didn't wait for their excuses. I just said, "Thank you for your honesty," then turned and walked out. Upstairs, I packed my suitcase. Not a word to them. No screaming match. No teary goodbyes. Just deliberate silence. That night, I booked a one-way flight to Denver and set an appointment with a real estate agent first thing in the morning. I had finally accepted the truth. Love without respect isn't love, and family without loyalty. That's just emotional blackmail dressed in old photo albums and birthday cards. The house wasn't a home, it was a stage. And I was done performing. By sunrise, I had already cleared out my most valuable documents, packed up my jewelry, and made digital copies of every financial statement for the last 3 years. The betrayal wasn't just personal, it was systemic. It lived in every bill I paid, while they pretended it was generosity. It whispered from the countless meals I bought, the roof I maintained, the quiet dreams I postponed to be a good daughter. Not anymore. This time, I would leave like a woman who finally saw the game for what it was and decided not to play. I canceled the joint utilities they never contributed to, froze the credit card I'd added my mother to, called HR to request a location transfer to my company's Denver office. No questions asked, just effective immediately. Everything I did was intentional, quiet, and irreversible. I wasn't burning bridges. I was disassembling them brick by brick so they could never be rebuilt on the same foundation. Then I called a realtor. "I want it listed by Friday," I said. "Cash buyers preferred. No family involvement. I want out clean." She sensed the urgency in my voice, but didn't pry. That silence was the first kindness I'd felt in months. By Thursday, I'd moved into a short-term rental across town. My parents didn't know I was gone until they returned home from their weekly shopping trip to find their key no longer worked. I had changed the locks, not out of cruelty but necessity. If I had faced them in person, part of me might have cracked, and I couldn't afford that anymore. I left a letter taped to the door. It read, "This house is going on the market. Please contact your lawyer for any concerns. My name is no longer your shelter, nor your excuse." That night alone in a quiet apartment, with no photos on the walls, I slept without guilt for the first time in years. There were no goodbyes, no closure, just a clean, cold break sharp like the truth that started it all. Sometimes the only way to reclaim yourself is to walk away completely and not look back. The backlash came fast and loud. Less than 24 hours after I changed the locks, my phone exploded with calls. My father left voicemails that started firm and formal, then turned frantic. My mother texted essays laced with guilt confusion and veiled threats about public embarrassment. Ethan even called twice, leaving voice notes that said things like, "You didn't have to humiliate them, and you always take things too far, Liz." But no one asked me why. No one asked how I felt. They were too busy reacting to the loss of control, not the cause of it. By Saturday, I agreed to one meeting on neutral ground. I rented a private room at a downtown cafe, small and windowless, like a courtroom without the judge. I sat at the head of the table. My parents arrived looking stunned by the formality. My father's expression was a mix of outrage and disbelief, while my mother looked like she'd aged 5 years in a week. Ethan strolled in last, acting like the referee. I didn't bother with pleasantries. "I'm selling the house," I said plainly. "The paperwork is in motion. I've removed all my belongings, canceled all shared accounts, and I suggest you both start making alternate arrangements." They blinked at me like I'd spoken another language. My father slammed his palm on the table. "That house is our home. We built that life together." I pulled out the financial records, receipts, statements, and transaction logs. "No, Dad. I built it. Every light you switched on, every meal you ate, every repair you ignored, I paid for it. Quietly, without complaint. And what did I get in return? Mockery, resentment, disrespect. My mother opened her mouth, but I cut her off. You think I'm cold? No. I'm done being your emotional ATM. I turned to Ethan. And you watched it happen. You let them lean on me while you kept failing upward. There was no screaming, just stunned silence. Because for once they couldn't twist it. The facts were on the table. And the truth. It no longer needed their permission to exist. After that final meeting, I didn't hear from them for a while. No dramatic last-minute phone calls, no tearful apologies. Just silence. And strangely, that silence was the most liberating sound I'd ever known. For the first time in years, I didn't feel watched in my own space. I didn't walk on eggshells in my own kitchen. I didn't have to explain why I wanted to eat dinner alone, or work late, or simply be quiet. My Denver apartment was modest, bare walls, secondhand furniture, not even curtains yet, but it was mine. And it felt like breathing after years underwater. I set small rituals for myself: morning walks, before sunrise cooking recipes from scratch, reading late into the night without interruption. It wasn't glamorous, but it was real. Peaceful. I stopped checking my phone obsessively. I unsubscribed from the emotional chaos I had once mistaken for family loyalty. Ethan reached out once. Just a text. Mom says she's not doing well. Dad won't eat. You should call. I stared at it for a long time before deleting it. Not because I didn't care, but because I couldn't be their fixer anymore. That job had cost me too much. One Sunday afternoon, I found myself at a local farmer's market, sipping lavender lemonade and talking to a woman named Claire, who ran a small artisan bakery. She told me she'd rebuilt her life from scratch after a messy divorce. We laughed about starting over in our 30s, how it's less of a restart and more of a reclamation. And for the first time in a long time, I felt seen not for what I could give, but simply for who I was. I still don't know if my parents understood what they did, if they sat with the weight of their words, or if they just mourned the loss of convenience. But what I do know is this walking away wasn't about revenge. It was about survival. It was about looking at the wreckage and choosing not to stay buried in it. I had finally stopped asking for their love to look the way I needed, and started loving myself in ways they never taught me to. It's strange how peace can feel unfamiliar at first. You expect it to be loud, like fireworks, announcing your freedom, but it's quieter than that. It's waking up without dread. It's sitting with your coffee in the morning and realizing no one needs anything from you. It's learning how to exist without constantly bracing for the next emotional blow. That's what life in Denver became for me, a slow unlearning, not just of bad habits, but of the idea that love must come with sacrifice. That family must be endured no matter the cost. I've come to understand something powerful: not everyone who raised you deserves access to the person you become. That isn't bitterness. That's clarity. And in that clarity, I've found room for something better, something I never imagined growing up in a house built on silent expectations and thinly veiled guilt. Sometimes you don't get the apology. Sometimes you don't get the closure. But you still get to heal. Now, when I walk through my neighborhood and see mothers with their daughters, or siblings laughing in a cafe, I don't feel envy anymore. I feel something deeper: hope. Because I didn't just survive the betrayal, I transformed because of it. And maybe that's the real legacy I'll carry forward. Not the shame they tried to pass down, but the strength I built in spite of it. If this story touched something in you, if you've ever been the silent backbone of a family that never acknowledged your worth, comment yes below and share your story. And don't forget to subscribe for more powerful journeys like this one. Because the truth is, you don't owe anyone your silence. And maybe, just maybe, this is where your story begins too.